So my father, Colin Eggleston, was born in 1941 in Melbourne, Australia. I think his father was a judge and wanted him to do law, so I think he did a year of law and then moved over to architecture because he really wasn't enjoying law. And in architecture school in Melbourne University, part of the activities was to do an architectural review each year. So all the students would put on a review, and Dad was at that time really more obsessed with film than he was with architecture, and so he was in charge of making all the films. The first film he made, which was for the architecture review at Melbourne Uni, was A Day in the Life of Robin Beckett in 1963. It's a black and white kind of student comedy, I suppose you'd say, quite surreal, a bit sort of anachronistic, but he never really talked about it that much. He did talk about the fact that he did make the films at the reviews. Soon after, they sort of gave up architecture school, my parents, and they moved to London, where we were there with the underground filmmaker Nigel Buist, who's a local Melbourne filmmaker who moved there with us, and their friend Bob Whittaker, who took all the photos for the Beatles and Cream and everyone. So he's always going to those sort of photo shoots and taking us along and everything. And he was working at the BBC as an editor on Doctor Who. So he did that for a couple of years before moving back to Australia. In the 1960s, he was really into the French New Wave, in particular Jean-Luc Godard. He talked about his films all the time to us when we were kids, and was very into sort of jazz music. He was very much into the 60s sort of rock and roll that he encountered in London. So he came back to Australia about 1969 and began working at Crawford's, editing, writing, directing, many cop shows. So Bri, when did you come to Australia? How did you get into acting?
Okay. I actually went to college. I went to the Guildhall School of Music and Drama and actually got a scholarship to go there. And after I'd finished that, I actually did the teaching course to get my degree. And then I was just travelling. I decided I didn't want to stay in England, so my parents gave me a one-way ticket for my 21st birthday, and I went to Australia. From there, I moved to Melbourne, and I did a show called The Box. And actually, that's where I met Colin. I met Colin when I was working for Crawford Productions. Actually, before 96 in the Box, I did a stage play called Don's Party. And I actually toured with that. We toured around Australia. We toured Melbourne and Perth, Tasmania, Brisbane.
Right. Which was later made as a film with John Hargreaves.
And I was not included in the film, but never mind. This is my stepson, Toby, excuse me. No, Colin was single, let me tell you. He wasn't married at that stage.
No, it's a few years later.
Yeah, Colin was actually shooting and writing a Divi 4. Right. I think it was a Division 4, yeah.
A cop show.
Yeah, and we actually met at a function. It was actually the launch of The Box. I was fortunate enough to work with Paul Cox.
Right.
And I did a movie with him called Inside Looking Out. And Colin actually saw that movie and said that's when he thought I might have been okay for Long Weekend, yeah.
Right. Okay, not just a TV actor.
Not just a TV actress, no. Yeah, maybe she had some talent.
So you're already going out with him then?
Yes. We were dating. In fact, I think we were living together by then.
What was he doing at Crawford's at that time?
What was he with Colin?
Yeah.
Colin, I think he was doing Divi 4. He was doing much more writing than he was directing.
Yeah.
Before that, I know he'd done a balloon film where he'd actually gone around Australia in a balloon. Now, where the footage went of that, I don't know, because I believe some of it was very brilliant.
Yeah, I've never seen the footage.
No, I haven't seen the footage of that.
I've still got some of the artefacts he got.
Really?
The original artefacts.
He certainly seemed to have his finger in lots of pies and things.
Right.
So, and then when he divorced himself from Crawford's, I don't know why, then he went totally independent.
Right.
And I think did the period piece, and then got the script for Long Weekend, and that became all involving.
Right. So how do you remember Long Weekend starting off? Was it did Everett bring an idea to Dad, or did Dad bring the idea to Everett? Or
No, I think they'd had some sort of business relationship before, and I think Everett brought it to Colin, and Colin saw the script and said, "Wow, this is extraordinary. Let me have it." I don't think he actually purchased the rights. I think they both worked together and collaborated. I know Colin had a lot of respect for Everett, and I think Everett had a lot of respect for Colin. And then they got together, and they were always over. Everett was always over at the house, and then we had a small farm, and Everett came up to the farm, and would spend weekends, and they'd work on the script and hone it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember weekend after weekend of the two of them at the farm working on it.
Yeah.
And every conversation was about Long Weekend.
How old were you, Toby?
I don't know.
10?
10, probably. I think so. So Sam, you'd be 5.
Yeah.
It was shot in 77, wasn't it?
Yeah, but the few years leading up to it, talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Victorian Film Corp.
Yeah.
So, but
I know he went sailing with some millionaire. I can't remember who it was, and he ended up getting the last bit of money
from
them.
him. I don't remember that. I obviously wasn't invited. Yeah.
No, it was someone like Kerry Packer or someone. I don't know who it was.
So, but it was it was a smallish budget.
Yeah.
Even for those times,
Okay.
and everybody worked really hard on it, and all the crew and the actors were really on board. So it was really a family affair.
Yeah. So I remember there was shooting in CBD of Melbourne at the start of the film.
That's right.
Now, did that happen before the shoot? Was it Bega? Or
No, that was actually we shot towards the end.
Right.
And
Because I remember watching that.
Yeah, the girl with the long dark hair is actually my girlfriend, Susie.
Right.
But no, that was shot later on. I think we did most of the stuff down on the beach first, and then the pub stuff.
Yeah.
And then the original opening. Yeah.
And what beach was it?
Tathra Beach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and how many weeks was that?
I think we shot it in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know there was very little rehearsal time for it, so we sort of rehearsed on the fly a lot.
Many takes?
Not too many.
No, that's good.
Not too many. There wasn't time for a lot of takes, you know.
No, that's what I suspect.
But Colin's always very definitive in what he wanted. His direction was always very concise.
Yeah.
So you pretty well knew. Because I lived with him, we already had a language that was easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And John Hargraves was such a good actor, anyhow. That he was amazing to work with.
Things like the Barbie doll on the beach, which is just one of the great images in Australian cinema. I mean, was that in the script, or did that just sort of happen? Or?
The Barbie doll, no, that was in the script.
Yeah.
But a lot of that came together. Was a great art director. His name was Eastwood. Larry Eastwood.
Yeah, really?
Anyhow.
I know Ivan Durant was making the...
he did the dugong. He was the
dugong
artist,
and
yeah.
the little guy.
So, but I'm sure, Ivan was consulted. But
Yeah.
that image is fabulous, isn't
Yeah,
it? Yeah,
that worked really well.
Yeah, it says an awful lot.
But it was like an early environmental horror film,
Yes,
I think, or thriller.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean,
It was beautifully shot. I mean, like the framing and everything, the mise-en-scene is really amazing. I think, I mean, just from talking to Dad about the film, he was very conscious of the film language and the framing and the way it all cut together.
yeah.
I know he was, as a kid, he was always making us see Hitchcock films. He was obsessed with Polanski.
Anything with a vampire.
Yeah, we'll get onto that, won't we?
Yeah.
And also, like even when I was 10, I remember him talking about Jean-Luc Godard and Breathless and the jump cuts, and then he talked a lot about Weekend, his film Weekend, which is a kind of apocalyptic road trip in
Yeah.
the same way that Long Weekend is, but it's quite different actually. It's not, this is much more Hitchcockian.
Then it is,
Yeah.
It just there's one thing I want to add too about
Yeah.
Long Weekend. It's like serendipity. I don't. That might not be the right word, but everything fell into place. We got the perfect surf. We got the perfect weather. We got everything worked.
Yeah.
From the moment we actually stepped onto that beach, which
Yeah.
I always found amazing too.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
And what about the that proto Steadicam thing that they used?
Oh right, yes.
I don't know. What was it called? Do you know the name, Sam?
Wasn't it just called a Steadicam?
No, it was before the
It was
Steadicam.
before the Steadicam.
But they gave it to him as a test just to try it out.
That's
and
right.
So all those great shots going through the tea trees
Yeah.
were using that.
And I remember that it was a huge piece of equipment, and that
Was it?
poor guy, and it wasn't Vince, it was the assistant,
Yeah.
had this huge thing on his back,
Right.
and people were trying to hold him up as he was running backwards.
Right. That's
So,
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it worked really well. That
Oh, brilliantly,
brilliant.
yeah. And it made
And-
it very easy for the actor too, as well.
Yeah.
So,
And it's before The Shining, which
yeah.
they always go on about that being like the first real Steadicam film.
Before Evil Dead 2 with that.
Oh, definitely
Oh.
before Evil Dead 2.
Okay.
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 Hi, well, this is Sam. This is Colin's youngest son.
Hi. Look, I was pretty young when you guys were working on my weekend. I think I was probably about 8 when you were shooting it, and
He was a little shit too.
I was a little shit. Yeah. As all good people are. And yeah, I don't remember that much about it. I do remember after the shoot having to sleep in a bedroom with that dead girl from the combi van, which used to terrify me.
Oh my
But yes.
God.
Which is a good thing,
Yeah.
It's made me a stronger person, I
Yeah, of
guess.
course,
Yeah. And my other big memory is going to the premiere with my mum, who's Dad's first wife, and there's a 9-year-old having to sit through the masturbating scene with the tent and my mum just sinking into her seat. But
it was a suggestion of masturbation. It actually wasn't a masturbation.
it wasn't,
No, what I
pornographic,
saw was
no, but it was.
A hand and a leg and a knee and.
Yes, but even at 9, I think I knew what was going on. Do you want to tell them a bit about how you got ostracized?
There was a newspaper came out with a headline story saying Briony masturbates at the expense of the Victorian Film Corporation. So it was shock horror in those days, and we were in a small country town called Bruford, and for the next 2 weeks, until they actually did a retraction, people used to run from me. I could see them diving into shops and pointing at me and snickering.
The things you put up with to make a movie.
I
eh?
know. In terms of
I mean, the
being
film
a
was
violent
not
movie.
popular in Australia, was it? But I don't know if that was because it was never given a chance here, or whether it just flew in the face of Australia's kind of romanticism about the bush.
I think you're most probably right, because there has to be a reason it didn't pick up audiences too.
Yeah.
I don't think it most probably got the promotion and the publicity it needed.
Yeah, but I know people who've moved, who migrated to Australia because they saw that film. So that's quite the opposite reaction.
Yeah. I met a French cinematographer who came here because of that too.
Yeah.
He loved the film so much.
And it won at Sitges.
Oh yeah. So tell us about that, Brian. Yeah.
Well, we didn't actually go. I think Colin didn't know a lot about it until he was actually had actually been awarded.
Right, so the Sitges in Spain.
In Spain, we didn't go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Colin didn't go.
Right.
I'm sure.
That's the one where Richard Burton and Gore Vidal were the judges. I
Could
think.
be,
That's what
yeah.
Richard Brennan told me.
Yeah, and I think Richard Brennan might have gone over there and accepted the
Yeah,
award.
maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure Colin didn't know until
Yeah.
he'd won. He
Right.
did. He might have known that it was up for contention.
Yeah.
But
And Avoriaz, is that the other film
yeah,
festival?
I think so. The
did
Avoriaz.
well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when we took the film to Cannes, we didn't get a lot of support from the Australian Film Corp either.
No.
It was
They saw it as bad publicity for Australia.
yeah, was that it?
Yeah, I think so. Who would want to come to Australia if they saw that film?
Yeah.
But I
So,
know two
yeah.
people now.
Yeah.
Also, it's not picnic at Hanging Rock.
That's right.
Sort of stuff that was being made at the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, so we were the poor relation. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Colin and I did all the legwork and handing
Right.
out leaflets and stuff.
We totally skipped Phantasm Comes Again, didn't we?
That's a shame, yeah.
Do you want to talk about that? I think before
With the hardcore inserts, which were shot in South America, not in LA.
really,
For legal reasons.
without, I don't think we've ever seen a hardcore version.
No, I haven't. Yeah.
And now John's dead. You're not going to see them anyhow.
No, but yeah, before Dad made Long Weekend, he made that probably just to make some money, I think, wasn't it?
Was that? Well, I can't. I can't remember the chronology.
Yeah, it was before.
The director's wife was having a baby, so I think Dad got dragged on. He was the guy who made Psycho 2 and all those films.
Oh, Richard Franklin.
Richard Franklin.
He was going to direct it.
He directed the first one, and he didn't direct that one, I think. That's the story I always
Yeah,
right.
that'd
I
be
think
right.
you're right. I think
Yeah.
you're right. Yeah. Yeah, I think Richard Franklin did do the first
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, although he might not want us telling people. But
Yeah, I know Dad did say that when he got over there, he argued with John Holmes and he sort of pulled out of it or something, but he made sure they filmed the argument so they could say he was in it.
I think it was because his dick shriveled up in a pool.
Something like
Oh,
that.
was he
yeah.
supposed to be doing?
He was meant to be the star.
Oh, right. I didn't
And
know that.
yeah, and he had Russ Meyer as the casting person.
And Russ Meyer's girlfriend is in it.
She's in it too, is she? Kitty or someone.
Oh, have you got it there?
They've all,
All,
it's a big fun
all
name.
deleted.
That's the film.
Classic.
Australian softcore
Yeah.
classic.
And then he did he do Cassandra? He was a writer for hire too before that, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was doing a lot of writing.
Yeah.
He did that, he wrote that one set in the theatre.
Nightmares.
Nightmares, which was the
yeah,
John Lamond one.
Lamond,
Yeah.
Um,
So he didn't direct that, did he?
no, he wrote it on a weekend for me.
Yeah.
I remember him writing it that weekend, and he just didn't sleep.
Yes.
Yeah.
This particular movie, Innocent Prey, we actually shot in Dallas. And God, I think we actually shot some stuff here, and then we went to Dallas to do 2 weeks, 2 weeks shooting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't involved. I think I did wardrobe, or I helped with wardrobe.
And I think it's a bit of a precursor to that one that Philip Noyce did with Joe Esterhaus, Slither. It's kind
Yeah.
of voyeuristic murderer.
And we haven't talked about
Sky Pirates.
Sky Pirates.
That was great fun to hang
Yeah.
around. Yeah.
And did you work on Sky Pirates?
No, I was too young, but I
Yeah.
hung around a lot because it was shot in Melbourne. A lot of it was
Shot in Melbourne,
in
yeah.
studios.
Yeah.
Once again,
Yeah.
John Lamond produced it,
Yeah.
and it was kind of Raiders of the Lost Ark Aussie style.
Yeah. And it was good. It was a good, fun
yeah.
production. Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember because he had a good budget on that.
Yeah.
And so he had a room full of storyboard artists, and it was really fun to hang around. But,
Yeah.
and went to Easter Island and all sorts of things. So.
Yes.
Not me.
No,
but
I didn't go to
Dad.
Easter Island
Yeah.
too. So
Yeah. I watched Cassandra a couple of years ago. I don't remember much about the making of it.
yes,
Yeah.
and that was actually Colin was very passionate about that too, and he actually wrote that. Didn't he co-wrote that with somebody else? I think he did. It was a bit of a co-writing experience.
Yeah.
But that again went really well. Everything fell into place, and it was actually quite well received because it was a low-budget movie, and very much in Colin's genre, I suppose, too, because it was a little bit of horror.
Yeah.
Yeah, the opening scene is pretty horrifying.
The eye and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, those visuals
Yeah,
are great.
yeah.
And once again, it's what its name suggests: a girl who can see the future and no one believes her. But, yeah.
Okay.
Colin had a great filmic eye, didn't he? He had a great.
He was good
sense of
visually, yeah.
perspective,
I mean, he was
great
good in
visual
lots of
sense,
ways.
yeah.
But you watch Long Weekend now and all those kind of
Yeah.
tracks around the tent with all the
Yeah,
foreground movement
yeah.
and stuff. Just
In fact, I
wasn't
think
really
that
done here then. But
Yeah.
yeah.
That was really his forte too, I think.
I think it's interesting that he actually, even though he's well known for horror, he was not really so much into horror. Yeah, he's into everything. He kept trying to sort of do other things, and then they wouldn't come off. But once it came off with the horror,
Yeah, okay, and the other one we should talk about is Outback Vampires,
Yes.
which Dad, from all my memories of him, he was always talking about making Romance in the Jugular Vein.
Romance in the Jugular Vein,
I
yeah.
thought it was a great title for a movie.
Yeah.
And it's a kind of horror, romance, kind of comedy thing. Was it originally comedy, or did it become a
I
comedy?
think it was always comedy.
Yeah, and wasn't it a series of made-for-TV films?
That's
was
how
it?
ended up.
Yeah, being
But-
produced by Jan Tyrrell. I
Yeah,
think.
okay.
But it started off, he talked to Vincent Price about it for
Yeah.
ages.
Yeah,
And I've
yeah.
still got the letter somewhere that
Have you?
Vincent Price wrote.
Was really interested,
Because
yeah.
he wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he said he'd never played a vampire.
Oh,
he
wow,
thought he
okay.
had, but,
Mm.
but yeah, it was a good idea, and it was just a very cheap film in the end. But
Yeah.
it really,
Came out a little
Yeah.
camp, to be
It
honest.
is, yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah. Which Dad was not a camp man, so I never quite worked that out.
Mm.
Yeah.
His humour was quite often very spoofy.
Yeah, okay.
That's right. And very misunderstood, too, his
Yeah.
humour. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Outback Vampires. Well, he used to always show us the Polanski vampire film.
Mhm.
Oh,
He
okay.
was quite obsessed
Fearless
with that.
Vampire Killers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I don't think sort of Polanski's greatest, but yeah. But once again, cut that. Cool. Look, I think I've had enough. I think
Yeah.
yeah. Dad shot it and then couldn't, I think, raise the money to get it finished, neg matched or something. I think.
Yes,
Was it?
something like that. I think it went quite.
There we go again.
So I'll
Just Dad's kind
Okay.
of.
Yeah. I think it went over budget, but wasn't it set in 3 sections? So you had black and white, you had sepia, and you had colour, and they all.
They were
donated. I mean, not donated. What's the word?
Donating.
Yeah, different periods, different.
Yeah, I can't quite remember. It was a kind of thing about a father who had a crush on his daughter, and then another guy came in and so it's kind of anti-Oedipal, but then no, double anti-Oedipal because it's the father for the daughter, and then an interloper came in and the father wanted to kill him. I think so. Whatever that says, but
There was a bit of a thriller, but it was very
It was a psychodrama. Huh?
sort of like a psycho. Yeah. It was really quite a psycho.
Yeah. And then Tobe, weren't you going to make a movie with Dad before he died about
Well,
the
yeah,
making of
I
Whit Sunday
thought about
Ash?
So, after not finishing Whit Sunday Ash, Dad really, he went overseas and did a number of other business ventures, going from country to country for a while. But he was always wanting to somehow finish that off. And one weekend he flew into Melbourne with the kind of a very quick script he'd written. He said, I've met a guy in Germany who wants to fund a film for me, and so have a look at this script. I'm sort of reusing the Whit Sunday Ash footage and just going to add to it. So I read it, and he was sort of sitting there staring at me for a couple of hours while I was reading it, and we talked about it, and I said, look, we really got to think up a better idea than this, because he'd written it on the plane. And so he said, look, come up with a synopsis and send it to me when I get back to Geneva or Paris or wherever he was going. And so I wrote him something that next day, and when he arrived in Geneva, he rang me up and said, oh yeah, get on a plane, we've got to write it this week, that's really good, So we really used the Whit Sunday Ash as a kind of video art footage of one of the characters that revealed things that had happened in a sort of, in the past of the storyline. And it became very much I suppose, a post sort of arty Hitchcockian sort of psychodrama or something set in France. So that was called Zappa. And then he told me, so we wrote the script together in the French Alps near Avoriaz in about 7 or 8 days. So then he flew back to Germany, I flew back to Melbourne, and he rang me up and said, well, actually we need 2 films. And so we quickly I worked all day writing, and sent it to him, and then he would work all day over in Geneva send back to me. So we had like a 24-hour thing going, and that went all fine. And then he said, "Well, actually, I didn't tell you, but we need 3 films," and so we knocked out another one really quickly, which wasn't very good. But we were all set to film at least 2 of those movies, and we were talking to Anna Carino and Jane Birkin and Jean-Pierre Léaud and people like that, and then unfortunately, he died just before he was about to make them. But he was really getting right into, I suppose, getting into the idea of a last part of his career where he would make a whole lot of films that he really liked.